So, tell me something terrible. Taking a hit off the coffee. Mm-hmm. We're all hopped up on caffeine for this episode.
Mm-hmm. It's our substance of choice for this one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All right. You're going to just stumble our way into this one?
Yep. Hi, I'm Tiffany.
And I'm Scott.
And you're listening to Tell Me Something Terrible.
Yeah, you are. It's a little daytime mini episode.
It is.
We're spur of the moment doing this on Halloween. Mm-hmm. To release on Halloween.
Yep.
So, whenever you're listening to this, it's hot off the presses?
Hot off the presses.
Fresh out of the oven?
Yep.
Okay.
Just like all those buns and all those babies.
Ovens or presses? I don't think you make
both.
I don't think you make either of those on a press.
You leave babies on the press?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's how you get the wrinkles out. Isn't that what they call anyway, ironing board?
Iron, yeah.
Is that a press?
No, I think it's just an ironing board.
Okay. Can you go ahead with whatever we're talking about here?
Yep. Okay. So we're going to do a brief history on Halloween.
Okay.
Okay. So over 2,000 years ago, before JC walked the earth... JC?
I got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, shit. Is it Celts or Celts? It's Celts, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. So the Celts, the heathen pagans, celebrated their new year on November 1st. Okay. To make it through the long winters and bring a prosperous harvest in the spring and summer, the pagans would celebrate Samhain. So that was the night before the new year, October 31st. And it is when the veil between the living and the dead is the thinnest. So pagans had to ward off evil spirits. In order to do so, the town would get together, partaking in an epic ceremonial bonfire. People would dress up as demons and ghouls and ghosts in order to ward off the spirits of the dead, sending them back to their afterlife, where they couldn't wreak havoc on the living by causing trouble and destroying crops for the next year.
That's fun.
But this is also the opportune time for druids, which are like pagan ministers, essentially.
I'm just going to stare at you till you tell me, because
they're pagan ministers.
Our local pagan historian is not me. So.
Nor me. I've scratched the surface. So the druids used this connection with the dead to tell fortunes for the year coming. According to History.com, these were important prophecies to help people make it through the terribly cold and depressing winters of like Northern Ireland. Okay. And so the Celts would put out their own hearth fires at home and leave their little hearth. You're right. Hearth fires at home.
I think.
No, I think it's hearth. Hearth? Doesn't matter. They would put out their fires at their house. And they would leave their little jack-o'-lanterns on their front steps, and they would come to this huge ceremonial bonfires where harvested crops and animals were sacrificed. They would dress up in their spooky costumes, usually with animal furs and animal heads, and they would tell one another's fortunes, and when it was all over, they would bring home a little bit of the sacred fires to relight their own fires at home to ward off evil spirits and to give them protection throughout the winter.
That sounds very communal.
Yeah. So
we need to start having just screw this trick or treat and let's just have bonfires.
Where people wear animal furs and faces and throw crops into the...
Yeah, and tell each other's fortunes. We can Miss Cleo. I just know she's a controversial topic for you.
100% fake.
Well, yeah. All of that is.
Yes. No, it's not. I'm telling you right now that the druids used to do it. So if you know a druid high priestess, she might be able to help you out.
Okay. I'm just saying all of that Miss Cleo derivatives.
Oh, very much so.
Yes, yeah.
And then the Roman Empire stepped in and tried to combine two of their own fall holidays and smash it together with Samhain to convert all the heathens. And so now people would also dress as angels and devils and saints, and they started doing costume parades, and the Romans tried to get away with calling it All Hallows Eve.
Okay.
Yep.
Which is what I assumed, that's where I thought we would start, was the All Hallows Eve, but it makes sense.
No, there's one more holiday before that.
Yep.
Just like every holiday starts.
Yeah.
One more step before when you think it does.
Yes.
Because everything is stolen.
Well, yeah. You got to make, I mean, you already got the time off of work. You know, you just got to make them all line up. Force them to line up.
Yeah. Yeah, because I'm sure all of those people that were working out in the fields,
Yeah.
they needed that time off work.
They might have taken that day off, which is probably a big deal.
Yeah. You mean they were allowed that day off?
Whatever. Yeah. However you want to word it.
So, and then all of these traditions made their jump over the pond to the U.S. colonies. So it wasn't celebrated much in New England. You know, Puritans and Protestants and all that. Just talked about that. But the southern colonies were all for it. And so a weird amalgamation of like English Halloween traditions was mixed with Native American traditions, which resulted in play parties and the celebration of the harvest. Neighbors would tell ghost stories and more fortune telling. And then there was singing and dancing. And all of this happened on October 31st.
Okay.
So now that's
Just
starting
a
to
nice southern party, bonfire, ghost stories. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So now like all of the holiday traditions are starting to make sense.
Yeah.
So by the middle of the 1800s, the Irish started arriving en masse, fleeing from the potato famine, which is on my list of things to do. So we'll get there.
Okay. Yeah, we haven't done a nice famine yet. Need a good drought.
Well, I was thinking about doing the California fires, but that's just going to make me cry. So
Right, yeah. Let's go. You know, you need a 100-year buffer period to talk about things.
Yeah. Yes. So when the Irish came over, they brought along all of their Halloween shenanigans and the origin story of the jack-o'-lantern. So legend has it that a man named Stingy Jack invited the devil to have a drink with him. But Stingy Jack didn't want to pay for their drinks, so instead he tricked the devil into turning himself into a coin.
Okay.
And then Jack told the devil that he would then pay for their drinks and that the devil could resume his usual form.
Okay.
But this didn't happen. Stingy Jack put the devil coin in his pocket next to a silver cross, effectively trapping Satan in his shiny form, until the devil promised to leave Stingy Jack alone for a year. The devil agreed, and Jack freed him. And then a year later, the devil was chumming around with Stingy Jack again because he didn't learn his lesson the first time. And Stingy Jack convinced the devil to climb into a fruit tree to get them a snack.
This is a weird-ass Irish story.
It is. Stingy Jack then carved a cross into the bottom of the tree, again, effectively trapping the devil, until this time the devil promised Jack that he would leave him alone for another 10 years, and when Jack died, the devil was not to claim his soul.
Okay.
And then Stingy Jack died. Satan couldn't take him because of his deal, and then God wanted nothing to do with such a diabolical soul, so the devil gave him a piece of burning coal and sent him on his merry way. Jack is now doomed to wander the world alone with the burning coal that he gently placed inside of a carved-out turnip to act as his makeshift lantern. So the Irish called this ghost Jack of the Lantern, or jack-o'-lantern for short. So in order to protect yourself from Stingy Jack, it was tradition to carve spooky faces into turnips, beets, and potatoes to ward off Jack and other evil spirits. And then the Irish came here and were like, well, what TF are these things? Mm-hmm. And started using pumpkins instead because they are far superior.
And Irish love the color orange. It's in their flag.
Yeah. Which one is orange and which one is green? One's Catholic and one's Protestant, right?
Oh, I have no idea.
I don't. I think
Catholic's green?
I don't know. I think so. I think Catholic might be green and orange is Protestant.
Okay.
Yeah.
No idea.
I don't remember.
I'm solely basing that off of Notre Dame's colors having green in them and not orange.
Yeah, I think that's probably a safe assumption.
And I know they're a Catholic school.
Yeah, I just remember having this discussion with Dan, and he wore orange on St. Patrick's Day, and people were like, "Why aren't you wearing green?" And he goes, "Well, actually," and like told like the whole like split between the Protestants and the Catholics and all of this stuff, and I was like, "Oh, I'm probably the only person in our entire class that found that fascinating." And for some reason, that like fact apparently is only half-assed stuck with me over the course of.
I remember it being interesting. I don't remember it, but I remember it being interesting.
Yeah, 18 years ago. So, along with the jack-o'-lanterns, the Irish also brought pranks along with them. Common pranks were stealing gates from farmers so cattle could escape, tying strings to cabbage to jump scare people, putting wagons and farm animals.
Strings to cabbage?
Yeah, and like pull them through the streets and like cornfields to like scare people.
Do you want to do that out on the road tonight?
Yes.
Just put some cabbages out there and people drive by, just yank them across the road.
Yeah.
And then watch people swerve.
We could put a wig on it so it looks like a human head or something.
That's morbid. I was trying to just be prankstery, not like we're dragging heads across. Because we're going to drag them into our yard. People are going to know where they came from. I guess we can do it the other way. Drag them out of our yard.
Sit at the church and do it?
Yes.
Yes.
Make a run for it.
Yes. So that's our plan for tonight, guys. So they also would take wagons and farm animals and put them on the roofs of houses.
Farm animals?
Yep.
So you just take a sheep and put it on someone's roof? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yes. They would tip over outhouses regardless of whether or not they were occupied.
Okay. At least it's not like a porta potty.
Yeah, there's
not shit going all over. It's just
no, because there's a hole in the ground.
Yeah, you're sitting there pantless, and you're like, oh, okay.
That's unfortunate.
Howdy, neighbor, jerk.
May I offer you this pine cone? That's what they used to wipe their butts with.
Okay.
All right. So they would they would take cabbage again. They would take cabbage stock.
It's dirt cheap. I get it.
Yeah, it also smells bad. So they would stick little pieces of burning cabbage in the keyholes of houses. So it would just leave this gross burning cabbage smell that permeated their entire house.
It's called sauerkraut. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's disgusting.
Yeah.
You can add us on that one. I think sauerkraut's disgusting.
Absolutely.
It smells horrible.
It really does. And tastes horrible and is slimy and just all around disgusting.
It's literally called sauerkraut. What part of you's like,
I would like me some sauerkraut.
Yeah. And I know it's not spelled like S-O-U-R, but still, like,
no.
Not a great name.
Mm-mm. So there's one story tells of a group of 200 boys in Kentucky putting what looked like a dead body across train tracks, and this happened in like 1879. Forcing a terrified conductor to stop and investigate the body. But the conductor was like, and all these boys were just, he said you could hear them giggling like in the woods, like along the train tracks. And he wasn't mad because they pulled all the same shit when they were younger.
Yeah. And it's not like nowadays when it takes a mile for a train to stop. So like, don't.
Yeah. They're not, chugging along that fast. Uh-huh. So another consisted of boys stacking beer cans and kegs on the front porch of a teetotaler Protestant minister in Ohio. So for the most part, it was just viewed as a way for preteen and teenage boys to run amok and get it all out of their systems for the year.
Okay, good plan.
Yep. So in the cities, it was common to splatter people with bags of flour or socks full of ash.
I thought you're going to say blood. Like just throw sheep's blood on someone and then run away giggling.
Don't worry. We'll bust out the morbid pranks here in a minute.
Okay.
That would be traumatic.
Yeah. So now you're just like kind of... What do they call that when you throw flour on people?
Antiquing.
Antiquing, yes. Yeah. I was like,
first they splatter them with the sheep's blood.
Tar and feather.
And then they throw the flour on them.
Tar and feather's different.
Yes. But soon the pranks grew a little bit more violent. Pranksters started tripping people in the streets, breaking glass, tipping cars. This is because this is back like in the early 1900s. Sawing off telephone poles, causing car accidents. Yeah. Just walking around with an axe. Hey, what you doing, buddy?
Well, no, they said saw. So they're just walking around with those, like, I imagine like those two-man lumberjack saws. And screaming timber and running away.
It takes 3 little, like, preteen, like, 10-year-old boys carrying that thing. Yeah. And then in 1900, U of M medical students stole a headless cadaver from the anatomy lab and put it on display, propped up against the building's front doors.
Oh, probably poor taste at that point. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was probably that it wasn't received well, I'd imagine. Like, oh, cool. That's a real body of a real human.
With no head.
Yeah. Did they do the whole pumpkin thing? Like you put it on top?
Oh, like this is actually how Sleepy Hollow started?
Yes, yeah.
So by the 1930s, things were starting to get out of hand as the Great Depression wore on. Some cities considered banning Halloween altogether, but most cities decided that it would not, but that banning it wouldn't work at all.
No, it'd just make it worse.
Mm-hmm. So even though there were limited resources, whole neighborhoods would plan get-togethers to create a house-to-house party to keep kids from wilding out. So each house would have a responsibility. One would hand out like simple costumes like sheets or like powder people's faces. Other ones would hand out treats.
Kitten ears and a little makeup and a little tail.
Yeah, just go from there.
Yeah.
I was going to say toilet paper mummies, but toilet paper is probably, we know what that's like. That stuff gets precious.
Right, yeah.
Especially when you're like in the middle of a supply chain problem.
Yep.
And so other houses would hand out candies and treats. And then it was also suggested that people dress up their basements. So it was suggested in a 1937 pamphlet on creating a trail of terror to, quote, the description in order to transform your house was to, quote, hang old fur, strips of raw liver on walls.
Okay.
Yep. They had to get creative.
This is Pinterest in the 1930s or whatever.
Yes. Where one feels his way to dark steps, there would be weird moans and howls from dark corners, damp sponges and hair nets hung from the ceilings that would touch his face. Doorways are blockaded so that guests must crawl through a long, dark tunnel. And all of this kind of morphed into trick-or-treating in haunted houses.
Okay.
Yeah. So that started in the Great Depression.
So, like, make your basement as scary as hell.
Yeah.
And then...
Because they're not already creepy enough.
No. Make people crawl around and touch raw meat and, like, hair nets.
With wet sponges.
Yes.
Yeah.
I can see that being a sensory, like...
Yeah, especially if it's all dark. It's like when you stick your hand blind into boxes and hope that whatever you touch doesn't move.
Yeah, you hope it's gummy worms
Yeah.
and not a scorpion. Yeah.
Yeah. So for the most part, this worked for the most part across the country, but you can't stop people from being savages. And so the night before Halloween soon became the designated night of mischief.
The Devil's Night.
Devil's Night. So at least along like the East Coast and the Midwest, in the Northeast, like it didn't really make its way out to California. So they don't really have like mischief nights and stuff like that out in California. It's just sort of like
Yeah,
this
it's hard
half
to
of the
be
country.
mischievous when it's 70 degrees out or 80 degrees out.
Yeah, your life must be so hard.
Yeah.
So in the Northeast, October 30th is called Mischief Night. In Jersey, it's called Goosey Night or Cabbage Night.
Goosey Night.
Yep. And here, only in Michigan, it's called Devil's Night.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's exclusive to us.
Nice.
Yep. And again, it's usually harmless fun, egging and TPing people's houses, doing ding-dong ditch and the like. My dad's favorite thing to do, except this wasn't on Devil's Night, this is actually Halloween, would be to unscrew the porch lights at people's houses that weren't home to hand out candy. So like if they... Because, you know, the universal signal was to leave the light on. And if no one answered, he would just reach up and unscrew the light bulb.
Nice.
Yeah.
We should take firecrackers for this night and just drop them in some pumpkins as we walk off a porch.
No, people work really hard on the pumpkins. The, like, light thing's harmless, but you never know. Like, a little kid could have carved it. The pumpkin smashing thing I was never a big fan of.
Yeah.
Even
like
when I was, like, an
Hall-
angry
like
teenager.
After Halloween, like, whatever.
Yeah.
I guess I don't care, but yeah, it is a little...
And so...
We don't even barely... We usually paint all of them. This is the first year we've carved in a while.
Yeah, it is. Because the one year that we carved it with my parents, they thought it was funny to put Lily as a baby inside of one, and it traumatized her. And she's still at 8 years old, almost 8 years old, refused to stick her hand inside of a pumpkin to pull its guts out.
She doesn't like goopy stuff. So.
Yeah. So most of it's harmless. But in Detroit, Michiganders took it a step too far in the 70s and 80s. Arsonists were big fans of setting trash cans, dumpsters, and full-on abandoned houses on fire. And
They were just going back to their pagan roots.
yeah.
Yeah, they're just having a communal bonfire.
Yep. I'm sure they were, sacrificing crops and everything too.
Yeah.
So the fires hit their peak in 1984 when 800 fires were set over the course of 3 days.
In Detroit?
Yep. Just Detroit.
And the Tigers literally were probably in the World Series.
That year,
1984
1984?
was the last year we won the World Series, and they play in October. Like, they probably just won the World Series. They're just out there destroying the world.
Whether they're happy or they're sad, shit's gotta burn.
Right? Yeah.
Which is a Lansing thing, you said, right?
Sparties, yeah.
Yes. I actually was scrolling through my Facebook feed.
They flipped some cars.
Yes, and and there was like a headline that said that the like East Lansing PD was like they're fully tied down because of the rioting and they won. Like,
no,
calm your tits, guys.
No, they don't have to process their emotions. They get really excited. Flip shit.
Low IQs do that. I mean, just kidding. That was mean. People that graduate college are all smart. no matter where it's from.
They're all smart.
So there was a citywide curfew in place and neighborhood watches started. So the fires slowly dimmed to a dull roar. And apparently the city of Detroit dubbed October 30th Angels Night. But that's a load of crap because I've never heard that.
Hell's Angels?
Yeah. No, sorry. It's Devil's Night. Stop trying to change it. Just get over it.
Right.
And now we celebrate the spooky season all month long.
Pretty much.
Not just like 2 nights. Yeah.
Yeah, Hocus Pocus is on like from the 4th of July on, I'm pretty sure.
Yes. Yep. And Nightmare Before Christmas will be on until December 26th. So I'm pretty happy about that too.
Right?
Yep.
Do we own a copy of that? It's on some stream.
I think we might
somewhere, doesn't it?
Yeah, I also think we might have a DVD
I think
copy.
It's on Netflix.
Yeah. So that's the brief history of Halloween.
A little mini pod.
Yeah. So sources. I went down a rabbit hole that strictly involved only history.com. I clicked on one article and then clicked on 10 more.
It seems reputable. Reputable?
Yeah, history.com totally is reputable.
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 Okay, good.
I hate you so much right now.
I just want you to not know which one you say when I'm done.
I honestly forgot. I
Good.
was like, God, which one did I say and was it wrong? So the articles were 6 things you may not know about pumpkins, how jack-o'-lanterns originated in Irish myth, Halloween was once so dangerous that some cities considered banning it, Halloween matchmaking and lesser-known rituals, and I didn't see anything about matchmaking when I was reading. That would have been interesting. Anyway.
It's when the goblins and ghouls come together.
Yes. And also the Great Depression origins of Halloween haunted houses.
Fun.
I hope
and
you learned
Detroit,
something.
watch the city burn.
Yes. I hope you learned something fun that you can share with people randomly and be the life of the party.
Yeah. Maybe just pop this on driving back from trick-or-treating, or you're making really strong drinks and and just sitting at home.
Yep.
Throwing candy at kids.
Yep.
That's the best way to be like, open your bag and just chuck it at them.
Yes.
Yeah, get off my porch.
Yeah.
Just
Like 2020 style where you would just leave it on a table and be like, bye.
We haven't handed out candy in 9 years. Because you were pregnant.
Oh my God.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
You were 8 months. Well, then I guess it was 8 years.
8 years.
Because you were,
Yeah, I was a ladybug when I was 8 months pregnant.
Yeah.
I thought it was funny. I got told by a lot of people my costume was on backwards. Because the belly was in the front. Yeah.
You could put the wings on it, I suppose.
Oh, that would have been cute.
Aww.
Whatever.
Yeah. That moment quickly, we're like, whatever.
We don't.
Faded.
Yeah, we don't do cute.
All right, and we're gonna be back Tuesday with a real episode, right?
Yes.
But only one episode this week.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
We've crammed all the content at you, and now we're gonna go back to your regular scheduled program. Also, bonus episode on Patreon came out today.
Yes.
Available at all levels. So we had to shamelessly plug that.
Yep.
Briefly.
I feel like we haven't shamelessly plugged in a while.
The Patreon?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Had to give it a little bit of a break.
Yeah.
Getting a little tender.
Got to rest. Mm-hmm. So, anyway, you can go there if you want to support the show.
Yep.
We won't be mad at you.
Nope.
We'll shout you out on air, too.
We will.
Be like, hey, name I can't pronounce. Thanks. You're the best.
Pretty much. With that much enthusiasm, too.
No. There'll be way more enthusiasm. We get really excited about those.
We really do.
It's been a minute, so we're ready to be excited about it again. Anyway,
Yes.
And
if you've made it this far.
Congrats. But we went over 500 Facebook followers, so that was cool, too.
Oh, yeah, we mentioned that already.
Did we? Mm-hmm. Oh, I thought that was recent.
We were 2 sheets to the wind.
like 2 episodes ago?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. You probably remember that more than I do.
I do, because I had to pause for a drink.
Good.
Yep.
Good. All right. Thanks for listening. Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
And goodbye.
Bye. Thanks for listening to our terrible podcast. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts, or wherever you like to listen. Feel free to follow us on Twitter at TMSTPod.
And if you'd like to support the show, you can find us on Patreon at Tell Me Something Terrible.
Oof, that was terrible.